Hello, this is Arthur Nix with EWKS, and today I'm going to talk about materials inside of a crew. Now, this is a great feature, but I want to make sure that if you're watching this, that you're clear on what exactly having materials inside of a crew does, and what materials that you do or do not want inside of a crew. So first of all, let's go look at the setting where you turn this on. It's going to be in Tools. It's going to be in Preferences. It's going to be in System. All right, so right here, and I say Allow Materials in the Crew. This comes set unchecked as a default from HCSS. So you'll have to turn this on one time in your System Preferences. Right now, I'm going to leave this unchecked. Do not prompt for material resources to be added to the crews, and I'll show you why in a minute. Why you do want to have that checked. I think probably 99% of our customers will want to check that. So let's go back. Let's go to a crew here. I got a activity with a crew. I'm going to go ahead and add a material. Let's go add a construction material, small tools maybe. And let's see here. We'll just use this one right here. I will just use the general one. There we go. And I'll put, and you notice right now it is not checked. It's not part of the crew. Let's go ahead and put OK here. And you notice it comes in and it's not part of the crew. It's independent. Now this particular one had unit of measure as crew hours. Okay, but it is still independent. I could put 100 times $10. Okay, let's go ahead and change this now. Let's take this out. Well, let's see. Let's just go add another small tools here. I'll go back down to my small tools. And let's grab this one here. But this time, I'm going to check that off right there. So this is part of a crew. I want to put OK. And now, if you look here, you can't really tell that that is in the crew, but it did come up. And it is 1,000. Now this would be whatever I had set up in the detail code book, the material code book. So that really doesn't have, but what it's mimicking right now is actually the quantity of activity quantity. So where can you look at this exactly and see what this is doing? I'm going to go to the Modify Crew. And there is, once you change that in Tools Preferences, there'll be a Material tab right here. And you can see here that you'll have a type here. It can be the activity quantity, which is I have it set now, or the crew hour quantity. Those are the two choices. It defaults to the activity quantity. And we can also change it. Let's go ahead and change it to the crew hours right here. And close that out, and you can see now I have the number of crew hours. I have 66.67, and there it is right there. If I change this, go ahead and make that 20, and you can see that that is changing. Now, notice I can't click on it and change that quantity right there. So that's the thing. If it's inside the crew, then it's either going to go off the activity quantity or the number of crew hours. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you want to use this for, not for like the 24-inch RCP or any permanent material, because I need to come back and add waste factors to that or put a different buy quantity to that. I don't want that to be just the neat quantity. So if you set this inside the crew, it removes that flexibility. What is it good for? Well, it's good for instance, like small tools or type of things that ride with the crew. Let's say this was welding, and maybe my activity quantity was, inch, welding inch. Well, then I could have my rebar, my welding rod, so many pounds per, crew hour. That's just one example. Most of the time, it's going to be some kind of small tool that rides with the crew, that's like for $5 an hour, that you don't want to set it up as a piece of equipment. So in this case here, I got, that would be, hour, and this could be $5, and then you can set this up. And you can set this up in your crew, and that's really where it should be set up, right here. And you notice I have to come over here to the right, and I have to come in here and put resource. Let's just go ahead and add one here. And okay, and I'll just go back. I'll just add that one right there. And there we go. And that gives me my choice. Is it going to be units per activity quantity or units per crew hour? And I can come back and change this, back and forth. I don't know why you would, but I can change that. So I just come back to resource. Let me come back to my, click back on the piece of equipment, and I'm a piece of material, come back to factor, and there we go. And I can even put a unit of measure on here if I want to. So this would be maybe, my drainage crew, that would be lineal foot, and there you go. So that's just an example of how you would put a type of material inside the crew. Usually it's going to be a 3-coat. Okay, now let's go back to tree view. Let's say that you made this on the fly. All right, so I come in here and I'm just going to call it 3 MAT. Yes, I want to create and I'll just call it material. I'm going to put in $5 each. And then it's going to ask me a question when I finish this. Do you want to add the resource to the crew? Which seems like at first like a good idea until you get that question, asked about 100 times, and you're like, okay, I'm over it. I don't want to add, the resource to the crew, and why do you keep asking me that? Okay, typically you're making materials up on the fly. It's more of a permanent material, has nothing to do with crew hours. So you don't want to add it to the crew because you want to control the quantity. So if I add yes here, it's now part of the crew. You notice that I can't change the quantity right here. So how do you keep from HeavyBid asking that? Well, that was the second option there. Preferences, system, and now just go ahead and check that, and it will not ask you every time. Now, what you'll have to do is actually, if you do want it inside the crew, then go set it up in the local, and then call it up, and then check the box that you do want it inside the crew. Most of the time, you're not going to want it inside the crew. It should really be already set up in the crew. Now let's take this further, and one specific application for this, for having a material inside the crew, is hired trucks. Okay, so for this example, I'm going to go up to my excavation, and I'm going to go to my excavation, haul off access. Okay, I'm going to come down here, truck off-site, and I'm going to add my triaxles to this crew right here, and I want it to ride with the number of hours. So for this example, I'm going to go to the modified crew. You see, there's my full crew, there's my material. I created a code called 5 haul. All right, and let's see, I don't want it to go off the activity quantity, I want it to go off of crew hours. Now what's important right here is the material factor, that right there, that is my number of trucks. So if I put close, you can see here I have 1 truck. Now what you want to use, if you're really going to use this a lot, is the Customize tab. I click on Customize, and it's going to give me my, come here to my adjustments right here. It's going to give me factor type, right, and factor. I'm going to take off, just so it's a little less confusing, I'll take off the man-hour adjustment, put OK, and you can see that is my factor type right here. So if you use this a lot, use the Customize tab if you're going to have hauling inside of a crew. And let's say now I want 5 trucks or 3 trucks. All right, so now it's just going to multiply my number of crew hours, which in this case is 83 times 3, and I got 250 hours right there. let's say I make this, I'll just go ahead and make that 50. You can see here that it's also it's also updating the calculation, which is what you want. And then you could probably, best idea would be to come into notes and say, assume, 3 trucks for haul off. Just to make it clear to anybody that's coming behind you and reviewing this right here. Because it's not really obvious right here. You can see the 3 is gone until I come back to the customize, and there's the factor. So a lot of good information that you can utilize using this right here in the customize tab. So that's where I use the materials inside of a crew the most. I don't use it ever for a permanent material. Personally, I think that's just the wrong application. There's some misunderstanding of the intent there. But it's good for the haul and also for the types of materials, usually construction type materials, 3 codes that are used either per activity quantity or by crew hour. So a great feature, and just make sure that you understand when and when not to use it. And also don't forget to go ahead to Tools, Preferences, System, and if you're going to check that one, be sure that the second option is also checked so that you're not annoyed by just that question repeating over and over when you're adding materials on the fly. All right, well, that winds it up for this feature. And again, this is Arthur Nix with EWKS. If you like this video, how about press like for me? And also check out the blog on this, and check out the rest of my blogs that I have on HeavyBid and other estimating topics.